Welcome back to Jewish Uncensored. Today we have a brief history of Israel's long and strong claim to the land of Israel, just in time to get ready for the Passover Seder. If you get to the supposed crux of the argument of why the pro-Palestinians claim that Jews are not native to the land of Israel, you'll basically get to the argument that we are colonial powers who came from Europe and started settling in Palestinian land, which we know is false. We have Nick Freitas today leading this short history lesson. Let's take a look.
Hamas has launched a full-scale attack on Israel, murdering over 1,000 innocent civilians in the single largest mass murder of Jews since the Holocaust. This attack has outraged many nations across the world and has triggered what is likely to be the region's bloodiest conflict in over 50 years. Now, as justification for these attacks, Hamas and Hezbollah, and even some left-wing political activists in the West, have long argued that Israelis are nothing more than colonizers and settlers. And in the wake of the Hamas massacre, several academics in the US and in Europe even cheered on these killings as an act of decolonization. So this begs the question, are Israelis really colonizers that have no relevant claim or justification to have a homeland in the region? Well, in order to consider that, let's conduct a brief review of the history of the area known as the Levant. The first large-scale settlement by the Jewish people began in the Levant during the Bronze Age, roughly around the 13th century BC. This was known as the time of the Judges. This was followed by the unified Israelite kingdom under the kings Saul, David, and finally Solomon, which lasted from 1020 BC to 930 BC. The kingdom was then divided between the two Jewish kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Israel lasted till 720 BC when it was destroyed by the Assyrian Empire, and Judah lasted till 586 BC when it was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire. And from that time till 1948, the territory would be fought over and controlled by several empires, to include the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Romans, Byzantines, the Arab Caliphates, which started around 633 AD, the Crusader kingdoms, back to the Arabs, and then would be conquered and remain under the rule of the Ottoman Empire until its defeat in World War I. And during this entire time, there had been an unbroken population of ethnic Jews living in the area known as the Levant. In fact, the name Palestine was not the official name of the region until Roman Emperor Hadrian put down a major Jewish revolt, resorting to near total genocide of the Jewish people and then renaming the province from Judea to Palestine as an insult to the Jews. Now, let us look at the modern era. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire at the end of World War I marked a pivotal moment in the history of the region because the Ottomans had controlled the land that now encompasses Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. Ultimately, Britain took direct control over what became known as the Mandate of Palestine and the Emirate of Transjordan in 1920, and they continued to rule these areas until 1948. But following centuries of persecution culminating in the Holocaust, it was acknowledged by many that the Jewish people needed a homeland and that the territory within the Levant made sense given both the presence of a Jewish population and the long-term historical and religious connection to the region. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan to partition the British territory into separate Jewish and Arab states, and that plan was accepted by the Jewish leadership, but rejected by the Arab states, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. And since then, multiple wars have been fought in 1967, 1973, among many other smaller engagements and conflicts. And over the last 50 years, Israel has managed to normalize and improve relations with some of its historical enemies. But lasting peace and recognition of Israel's right to exist has been difficult to achieve, largely because of the emergence of terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, who have continued to wage war on Israel for decades. These groups and many Western academics have gone so far as to justify even the most heinous acts deliberately targeting civilians as justifiable in a war of decolonization. But here's the thing. Jews have been living in this region for over 3,000 years. To accuse Israel of colonization doesn't make a great deal of sense given the history. If a Jewish homeland in the Levant is colonization, wouldn't a Palestinian state be one as well? Not to mention that there are already several Arab states in the region, with most of them existing on land that was originally taken through conquest. So look, if the argument is that despite the fact there are several Arab and Muslim states in the region, that the Arab and Muslim populations of the Levant should be able to have their own state, that is an argument that many can understand, and one that Israelis have even agreed to. But if the argument is no right to exist and is nothing more than foreign conquerors, I'm sorry, but to believe that requires a lack of understanding of the history of the region, not to mention a pretty intellectually inconsistent view of conquest and colonization. But their overall argument is even worse than that. They are attempting to justify the deliberate murdering, kidnapping, and raping of innocent civilians in order to achieve a political objective. So, ask yourself this: with these sort of false justifications being used to prop up the worst of atrocities, would you want to live next to a state with a charter that not only justified, but rewarded the killing of you and your loved ones?
There you have a little bit of Jewish History 101 and our native status to the land of Israel. The pro-Palestinians will obviously not have anything to say about this video, nothing to rebut. They won't be able to argue with you, but they will just keep spewing their claims of genocide, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing, as they have always been. However, even if this video can wake up a single person to really come to terms with this fact and really break that facade of the Palestinian argument, you'll really make grounds with these people, and that's really what these videos are about. You can just change one person's mind and really show them that the other side really doesn't have any solid ground to stand on that is worth it. I love how, in general, people conveniently forget about the Bible when talking about how Jews aren't native to the land of Israel, and we need someone like Nick to spell it out for them. And I think this really boils down to the fact that, especially in the Muslim world, they have a claim that the Bible was altered by the Jews, and therefore you can't trust its veracity, which is a very big problem. Basically, they're saying anything the Jews say can't be trusted, and therefore all their arguments are sort of, the rug is pulled under their feet right from the get-go. You can't even argue with these people if they're from the get-go they think you're a liar. So, good luck fixing that when this is the type of attitude you're dealing with. And again, you'll see this in multiple areas when they sort of revise different texts of the Torah, saying, "Oh, our version is right. Therefore, Isaac wasn't bound on the altar; it was Ishmael." So it's very simple things like that, which we take for granted. They say everything's false there; we can't even trust it. Which is just another interesting point with this Torah scroll. You actually can't write it from memory. You have to take a different Torah scroll and copy it word for word. And if even one single letter is out of place and it's incorrect, you have to basically bury it in certain cases where you can't fix it. So that shows you how careful the scribes have to be when they're copying a Torah from generation to generation. And it's just interesting. Well, whenever you're on X and all these platforms, it's like they showed us a few examples. They showed the people who justified the killings that happened on October 7th, saying it's decolonization. I just wonder how, you can try this and to tell us how it works. So flip the script on these people and just say, no, the Jews are the natives to the land of Israel, and we're decolonizing you. See how they react to that, just out of curiosity. And in general, we just don't need to be scared of what these people are claiming, and we really have to stick to our truth and stick to our guns and say that we are here. Our claim is from the Bible, and we are the descendants of the Jewish people who God promised it to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that we'll be back in this lands, and we're back after all these exiles, and we're taking back what's ours, and we shouldn't be scared of saying that anymore. I think that'll really shock people at first when we say the Bible says this is our land, the Torah says this is our land, and we're back to take it. And we shouldn't be shy of that. And if anyone wants to take a deeper look into the Jewish history in the region, I definitely recommend Bernard Lewis. He is one of the authors and scholars who are highly regarded in this field, in Muslim history and Jewish history in the region. Bernard Lewis, definitely his books are recommended. He's considered an expert in this area. And just one professor and rabbi I personally really like, Ken Spiro. You'll find his videos on YouTube. Definitely give you a big insight using secular sources and Jewish sources into the region, and also a lot of archaeology. And last but not least, the Bible. Again, like I said, most people forget to do their readings, but the Bible is definitely recommended reading if you want to see the Jewish claims for the land of Israel and how many prophecies are directly written about the Jewish people coming back after a long exile, and that's where we are today. This is Sneer Year with Jewish Uncensored. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more updates on our homeland and our nations coming soon.